Hi everybody, Armored Pants here, and I have another review for you. This is the GUP tank Girls und Panzer, and this is the IS-2 Pravda Tier 7 collectible tank. A lot of you asked for this review because this tank was recently out in the store and the pop-up offers, by the way, which are very difficult to get out of, kind of like a loveless marriage, unless you knew exactly where Wargaming had hidden the exit button. Of course, if you're on your laptop, not a problem. Now, Girls and Panzer, right? Now, I have to admit, until I did the Saunders Firefly review, I fucking no idea what Girls and Panzer was. I saw people mention it, on forums and that. I just thought it was some sort of weird German porn site or something like that, giving a whole new meaning to Panzerfaust, hey? But apparently it's not. It's a Japanese anime cartoon series, which, yeah, there you go. Being a European man with married with kids, obviously I had no fucking idea what it was. But anyway, it turns out that it's this alternative universe where girls who attend high schools and they and in a tanking federation they involve in each other in battles. So let's have a look at this tier 7. There are a few other tanks. There's the Hetzer. There is the Kuromura Mina tier 6 Tiger. There is the tier 6 Saunders Sherman, and there's the tier 5 Panzer for Anko. Now, by the way, one weird thing about all these anime tanks is that they're all supposed to be crewed by Japanese girls, right? But only the Anko has female crew voice, which doesn't really seem to make any fucking sense whatsoever. Why don't they all have female crew voices? I mean, Wargaming have gone to the trouble of actually putting the Japanese crew voice in, so why not use the girl one? It doesn't seem to make any sense, right? Why does only the Anko have it? There's a question. If anybody knows the answer, maybe put it into the comments. All right, let's go and have a look at the tech spec for this tank using blitzhanger.com as always. Hi guys, so let's have a look at the tech spec as we are now in Blitzhanger. So what can we see from looking at this? Well, firstly, we see that this tank has 1400 hit points, view range of 271.2 meters if you use optics. In terms of the equipment loadout, I would do the following, right? I would use gun rammer, I would use supercharge, and I would use refined gun. Refined gun because the gun handling in this is pretty bad, so you want to get down that dispersion as low as possible. In terms of provisions, I would use white rice or a genie, which is basically more rice, and improved fuel. That's going to max out your view range and your reload time. I think, in terms of the shells in this tank, there's 3 shells. There's AP, APCR, and HE. It says your damage points per minute are 1900. It's pretty low. By the way, that's if you pen, so you need to be aware of that. That's basically the difference between actual and theoretical DPM. Damage points 400 on AP. If you use APCR, they are 340, and if you use HE, if you're lucky enough to pen with HE, it's 500, which is pretty good, right? Now, reload time is 12.6 seconds, right? So it's quite long, and that's why I use gun rammer, because if you use calibrated shells, okay, you get extra pen, but your reload time goes up to almost 13.6 seconds. It's an extra 1 second, which on a tank which has a really long reload anyway, I think is a bit of a problem, particularly if you're brawling against, let's say, a Tiger P or a Tiger which has that really fast reload and has armor equivalent to your own. In terms of pen, you get 175 millimeters of pen with a P. If this is, of course, with gun rammer, you get 217 with APCR, and with HE you get 61 millimeters of pen. Now, if you decide to use calibrated shells, it goes up to 184 meters per millimeters of pen with AP. APCR is going to give you 228, and HE goes up to 67. So you may want to do that, especially for the extra HE pen, because then you get that 500 damage points. But as I said, for me, it's just too long of a reload, which is why I run gun rammer. In terms of muzzle velocity, and this is one of the reasons why the gun handling sucks, it's really low, right? It's only 1,014 meters per second. Even with APCR, it only goes up to 1268. And of course, it's the same muzzle velocity with HE as AP. It's only 10. 14 meters per second. So it's pretty low, right? And you got massive penetration loss over distance as well at 6.6% penetration loss. So that coupled with the dispersion, right? The dispersion is 0.359 if you use refined gun, which is why I wouldn't use vertical stabilizer, particularly as you're heavy tanks. You're not going to be firing so much when you're moving. The vertical stabilizer, therefore, is not so beneficial. But if you don't use vertical stabilizer, it goes up to almost 0.4, right? So it's horrendous. And that's why the gun handling is so poor on this tank. In terms of the base aid time, also poor. So again, also feeding into that poor gun handling. Gun depression is 6 degrees, elevation is 25. So nice elevation. Gun depression, what do you expect from Russian heavy? Nothing special. Nothing too bad, nothing special. Aiming arc, 360 degrees, 180 plus 180, so it's fine. 122 millimeter gun. But the major problem with the gun is its gun handling and its reload time, right? So you're going to struggle with that, and that's definitely something which you need to be aware of. In terms of its mobility, it does 34 kilometers per hour in a straight line, 14 in reverse. For a heavy tank, it's not so bad. But here's a very positive thing about this tank: it has a great power to weight ratio, and across all sorts of terrain. Great power to weight ratio, and it has really great traverse speed too, which these two things are excellent and really play into this tank's ability to get around the map and to influence the game. In terms of concealment numbers, the concealment numbers are not actually that bad, much better than other types of heavy. So if you consider, like, you know, you're about at a tank with 290 meter view range, which is kind of standard medium tank around tier 7, you're going to be spotted up at 252 meters if you're not moving, 268 if you are moving. So it's not great, but it's not bad. You're not going to be spotted immediately on the map. You're going to have some grace period to get into position, etc. So not bad at all. If we look at the armor profile, you know, I guess one of the things you want to look at here is, you know, the can this tank side scrape, right? Because that's basically what the Russian heavies are known for. And yes, if you look at the relative armor numbers here on the top left-hand side of the screen, you will see that, yes, you can definitely side scrape in this. This tank front on is a bit of a beast. Even if you're up tiered, the armor is exceptional. Only really the lower plate is vulnerable. And, you know, obviously, if the turret is also really good, you got this good mantlet too. So really just the lower plate is the only part that's vulnerable. And when you look at the tank front on, even when it's up tiered, you can see that it really can only be penned in the lower plate. And that lower plate's a difficult target. It's a small target. So even if somebody wants to pen you there, they're going to have to spend a bit longer aiming and give you some time to put a shot into them. What you will struggle at in this tank, though, is if you are coming up against a fast-firing Tiger P or Tiger, you're going to run into trouble because they're going to out DPM you. They're going to be putting a round into you every 5.5 seconds. So basically, they're putting 2 rounds into you before you could even put 1 round into them on the reload. So, you know, and okay, you're going to be doing, you know, 350 plus alphas, but they're doing 220 to 250 per alpha roll. So you're going to be out DPM. So you need to get close to them, just show them your turret if possible. Don't give them a chance to put rounds into your lower plate or into your hull. Just show them your turret. Or if you can use something as cover, even better. In terms of tactics for this tank, right? This tank is, you know, it can be tip of the spear, especially if you're top tier. You can be a frontline bully in this tank. Otherwise, if you are bottom tier, I would suggest you just follow your own heavies. You're more than able to keep up with them. Go with them and use your tank as a support tank. You can, by the way, have the option of going as a support for your mediums because, as I said, well, its top speed is not huge. Its power to weight ratio is great. So you can take off quickly and you can go and keep up with your mediums and to give support to them. So it's all about reading the setup at the start of the game and deciding, do you want to go with your heavies or do you want to go and support your mediums? You have both options are open in this tank, so it is tactically more variable than some heavies, some slower moving heavies. And of course, if you decide to do that, this tank, especially your top tier, front on, its armor is really strong. Just make sure that you're front on. Be aware, though, of your gun handling. You need to take a bit extra time in making sure that your shots are on target and that they pen. His gun handling is crap, and just be aware of that. And if you do fluff a shot, you've got a fucking long time to wait for the next one. So just be aware of that. Keep that in mind. So basically, to summarize, um, it has diversity in terms of its gameplay and tactics because it's fast moving. It has that power to weight ratio. Gun handling sucks, so take extra care when you are taking those shots because there's a long reload in between. As you can see, historical reference, this comes from the Pravda School in Girls und Panzer. What sort of universe is there where high school girls have tanks? I don't know, but I wouldn't mind living there. Okay, so let's go and have a look at some gameplay. We're back in the game. So we're on Destiny's Pearl, which is actually kind of interesting, given that this is a Japanese tank, albeit from a alternative universe, or whatever the fuck place it is where girls are actually able to access and fight in tanks. So what I decided to do is here, I'm going to go to B. Just check the setup. So I think going towards B, going towards C, trying to capture those two bases at the start is probably a good idea. So I'm going to push on there. Obviously, I'm top tier, so I don't have to worry too much about bumping into bigger, heavier tanks. In terms of my armor profile, my mobility, and that I can get around the map. You can see here as we move towards B exactly what I said about the mobility of this tank, right? The power to weight ratio, traverse, everything is fantastic. So get into a position, and just as I suspected that their LTTB and Cheeto would go towards C, we've met them there, and I'm actually able to put a round into the LTTB. So I'm going to capture B, and I'm going to be able to support my team at C as well. I'm going to come down here. You're going to see the strength of the armor here as we go through. I'm going to get 2 bounces here as I come along, one from the LTTB, one from the Cheeto. And that's basically the strength of this tank. I'm going to move around, get another bounce, angling up there, making sure that I'm getting some bounces on the tank. And I take one, as when you're side on, you can see, obviously it's much easier to pen. Take one from the LTTB, take one from the side here, but what I'm really worried about is this big fucking gun on the SU, and there you go, you can see, just shot him the turret, nice bounce, and I'm going to push on to him. Don't want the 3101P coming up behind me, so I'm going to push on to the SU, drive by him. Again, this is the power to weight ratio in play here. You wouldn't be able to do that with all heavies, right? But because the power to weight ratio on this tank is so good, I'm able to zip by him, put another round into him, and then my ally's able to clear him off. Going to get another bounce here off the VK. Very different scenario to when I'm front on compared to when he was able to hit me in the side. Boom, he's gone. And now this game is more or less over. Now it's just tidying up operation. And there you go. We're only like, whatever, a couple of minutes into the game. 2.2k of damage done, 1.2k of damage blocked. Could go for a HE here, but given the gun handling of this tank, I just decided to play it safe and take my AP damage. But either way, he was going to be 2 shots, so I've got 2 certain shots as opposed to the uncertainty of going with HE. Is it going to pen or not? Then I'm going to use the Hulk of the AMX here, and I'm able to put round into the IS. Now we're up to over 3.2k damage, and game over. All done, 3.141k damage, 3 kills. Overall, decent game. Base capture as well. So overall, just a decent game, and shows basically the abilities of this tank. Spotting up as well, which is unusual in the heavy tank. But when you have that good power to weight ratio, though, it means that you can sometimes get spotting and scouting badges in this tank, because you can get into position pretty quickly, and you can spot up. And okay, you don't have a great view range, but with that armor, if it's facing forward, it doesn't really matter if you're spotted up by the enemy if they're far off, because you have that good armor profile, especially if you're top tiered. So overall, I think good demonstration of the strengths of this tank. Its weaknesses are, of course, that gun handling and that long reload. So you need to be cognitive of that, play to that. Don't do too much brawling, face hugging if you can help it, especially not with the Tigers, because they out DPM you. So with that in mind, if you play to the strengths of this tank, which are its frontal armor and its power to weight ratio and mobility, you will get results. If you are bottom tier, go and support your heavies or your mediums. Both options open to you. So I hope you found that useful. I hope you found it enjoyable. And now I guess all that remains for me to say is, as always, pants off.